Fani and Nathan busted. Cell phone records show they may have been not truthful in court during the evidentiary hearing. We remember Nathan Wade's testimony that he never stayed the night over at Fani's residence, but the phone records, they show different. We're going to see what that looks like. This is an affidavit that got submitted from Trump's attorney, remember, Steve Sadow, and he asked some questions of Nathan Wade during the evidentiary hearing that we covered in depth here. And one of those questions was about, how many times did you go over to Fani's residence? Was it less than 10? Nathan Wade had a bunch to say, but it turns out they had some phone records that show, based off the triangulations, that Nathan Wade was over there a lot more than he testified to. And that is now being called out. Question that begs, of course, is did Fani and her office lie about this? Did Nathan perjure himself to the court? And was Fani right there behind him doing the same? Now, Fani's office is creating a rapid reaction force. They're trying to assemble this. CBS News is reporting that they're trying to get a response on this to say that the cell phone records are fake and probably Russian disinformation or whatever they're going to come up with. Probably racist cell phones. And they'll issue a response, and we cannot wait to see what that sounds like. And Jim Jordan is also communicating that they have been talking to a whistleblower from Fani's office who says that they misappropriated a government grant. So Fani and Wade are clearly busted. Let's see what this affidavit looks like because it is juicy inside. In Fulton County, Fani and Wade busted. This is a supplemental report, an exhibit from the defense filed by Trump's attorney, Stephen Sadow, Georgia bar attorney, and he is submitting this in Fulton County, the case of Georgia versus Donald Trump. This is in front of Scott McAfee, and we've been waiting for some updates on what is happening in this proceeding, and McAfee has rescheduled this for an evidentiary hearing follow-up on March 1st, and we're going to be here covering that one as well, so be sure you're subscribed wherever you're watching. This is what Trump's team said. All right, dear Judge McAfee, President Trump hereby files this corrected. There was a previous filing this morning that had a word that they had to fix. We'll share what that is when we get there, but this is Trump's proposed supplemental defense exhibit. We were talking about this back during the evidentiary hearing, and here it is. It consists of an affidavit from our investigator for the Trump team called Charles Middlestat, and he is here certifying that there was an analysis done on cell records. They used CellHawk to create reports, and those have been attached as exhibits. And remember, Judge McAfee has been saying, I need to look at a bunch of additional things before I issue my ruling, including attorney-client privilege between Terrence Bradley and other stuff. So Nathan Wade has already submitted in a previous filing that we read here that there should be no review of anything from Terrence Bradley. Like, they're really protecting themselves, circling the wagons so that there is no access to this material. And then boom, Sadow just came back out and says, we got the records right here. So records and reports that are attached as exhibits saying the CellHawk analysis and the reports, as well as the certified AT&T records, which we were also waiting for, they have been provided electronically via a cloud folder link contained in a courtesy service email. And we really like to have access to that folder, you know, really like to see it. Mr. Middlestat, the author of Exhibit 38, he's also available to testify. So if you have any questions for our private investigator, we'd be happy to provide them to you. Here's what they say. Now, the correction, just to be clear on this morning we talked about this at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. There was an updated filing. The correction is on page 5. The first line page on line 4, it should have read 12,000 interactions, not 12,000 text messages, right? So whatever that means. Interaction, is that an emoji? What is that? Let's see if they give us some details on it, but it's not text messages. Interactions, maybe it's not an actual text message, maybe it's, you know, an iMessage or whatever. So 12,000 interactions, that's really the only correction, but it is a juicy one, as we know. And so let's get right to it. This is the private investigator who has the records from Fani and Wade. He says, all right, anyone who's interested, Judge McAfee, you might want to know. My name is Charles Middlestat. I am 59 years of age. I am a criminal defense investigator working with attorneys Steve Sadow and Jennifer Little on behalf of President Donald Trump in this current case. Now, in conjunction with counsel of record for Michael Roman, that's Ashley Merchant, on or around February 9th, Charles says, I personally served a records request upon AT&T and their subpoena compliance center. The requested documents included the voice call and the text history, as well as a specialized location data for AT&T number ending in 5822. Who does that belong to? A Nathan Wade. Now, there's some questions about how they got access to this, and I haven't seen anything officially on the record. We had a great friend on our members only stream called Kenneth who said that there's, in Georgia, apparently some of this might be public record, right? Cell phone records might be considered public record. All you got to do is file it and you can get the metadata for the records. But there's a big question about this and whether or not Fani in her response is going to say this was unlawful or this should be suppressed or judge, you can't look at this. this or whatever. So we're going to see where they got it, but it's interesting they got it. Now, on the morning of February 15th, 2024, counsel received the response from AT&T containing an encrypted link to the requested records, and I was provided access to the zip file containing the response from AT&T. Now, following my review of the zip file, I confirmed that AT&T fully complied with their request, the bulk of which included records from a period between January 1st, 2021 and 11/30/2021. So from January to the end of November, let's say December, 11 months of the year in total. Now, a couple important dates. Nathan Wade got appointed November 1st and filed for divorce November 2nd, if I have those dates right, of 2021. Now, they say that their relationship started early 2022. So a bulk of these records are from before the appointment and from before they admit their relationship started in 2022. So now, the certified records from AT&T are included in the cloud folder titled AT&T Records, which is being contemporaneously served upon the parties. So he's going to say, I'm going to do my report. The report's going to be on the raw files. The raw files are located here. Now, upon receipt, when I got these records from AT&T, I began using an analysis using Leeds online analytic tool called CellHawk. Now, CellHawk is considered by law enforcement to be the gold standard in cell phone records analytics. It is used throughout the United States and by Georgia law enforcement agencies and should be well known to Fani and the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. She knows how to use it because they do this type of stuff. Now, he says, I am a board certified criminal defense investigator, and having specialized in criminal cases for over 25 years, I routinely use CellHawk to conduct analysis on records, both on initiated subpoenas and those received in discovery. Now, my firm was granted a license and we completed training in 2019, and I pay an annual licensing fee, and CellHawk is the program I use exclusively to analyze these records. Now, since that time, my staff and I continually attend webinars and we remain up to date on training and the latest features available in the CellHawk analytics. I have a strong working knowledge of its capabilities and its limits, and I have extensive experience utilizing this program to analyze cell phone data. Now, while I am not a cell phone tower engineer or expert, I have the equivalent experience and the training of those individuals routinely tasked by law enforcement agencies or the DA's office with identical analysis responsibilities. Now, a cornerstone, says Charles, of the CellHawk analytics tool is the inability to manipulate the data. Just load it up, it spits it out, but you can't change it. Data is uploaded as received by the cell provider custodian. Once loaded, it can be queried and be examined in innumerable ways. And from there, data reports can be generated using filters, and the geolocation data can be displayed in unlimited ways, including via an animated map. Now, under normal circumstances, analysis is conducted on data involving far narrower record periods, perhaps even a few days or a few weeks, right? So think of like a murder, or think of like the Brian Kohberger case, right? Like the murder happened, they need like a week before, a week after, like that's it. This is broad. This is 11 months. So it's difficult to understate the amount of data in this scenario. Okay, so like 11 months, like think about your cell phone. It's pinging everything all day, 24 hours. It's a lot. So it's difficult to understate the amount of data. Now, while the sheer size of the data in no way impacts the ability to conduct the analysis, like it doesn't matter how big it is, it did require a different approach in order to narrow down potential dates to explore. Like you have all this data, but what can you see unless you zoom in? Like you can see the whole world, but you can't zoom in to figure out the traffic, what's the traffic in your route. So I began my analysis by focusing on two distinct reports, which he's going to detail here. One, generating a report that I'm attaching as Exhibit A, which we do not have, that isolates all interactions. This includes voice calls and text messages between Mr. Wade and Miss Willis during the period of available records in 2021. So all interactions, the dates, timing, frequency, and duration of these interactions are included as part of the report. Now, that report revealed over 2,000 voice calls. Okay, so you have 11 months, 2,000 voice calls. That's a lot of phone calls. And just under 12,000 interactions exchanged over the 11th month period. There's a heat map, which is attached as Exhibit B. And I've seen some images of what might be a heat map floating around the internet. I don't know if it's from this filing or not. But a heat map attached as Exhibit B highlights the interaction patterns which demonstrate a prevalence of calls made in the evening hours. Ooh. So Nathan and Wade, Mr. Wade and Mr. Willis, during the period of these records, 12,000 interactions over 11 months, 2,000 voicemails, and evening hour conversations, okay, during the nighttime, where they're going over their court briefs and their memoranda. Yeah. Now, focusing on geolocation activity, here's where we get some good stuff. We got the number now, number 2. Now, focusing on geolocation activity near 3300 Dogwood Drive, which was testified to by Miss Yurdy, we heard her, as the address of her condo, and generating a report to reflect the activity that they also attached and gave to the judge. They say, this is what I did. I wanted to see the total volume, essentially. What's the total volume? A lot. 12,000 interactions, 2,000 voice calls late at night. All right. But also, I'm just going to focus on this one address. Yurdy's condo where Fani was living. And I generated a report to focus in on that area. That is now Exhibit C. Now, given the urgency associated with the need to analyze this newly acquired data against Yurdy's relevant testimony, I constructed a very conservative geofence, a fence geographically on a map that isolated 2 cell towers in the closest proximity to this address. So you put this on a map, you say, okay, here is the Dogwood Drive residence. And I say, I found one was 3,000 feet away right here. And the other one was 2,000 feet, a little closer right here. So we've got these 2 cell towers, which have now been pinged, 3,000 feet, 2,000 feet. Now, the purpose of this geofence was to conduct an initial assessment of whether Mr. Wade's phone ever connected to these 2 towers, right? So this tower maybe has a range that looks like this, right? And then this tower has a range that looks like this, with like Venn diagrams a little bit over here. And so if it within this area, it overlaps the 2 Venn diagrams, we know that that's Wade's phone. He's in that area. Now, this modality was used to eliminate the possibility that hits could be associated with routine travel. Okay, so he's not on the I-75, he's not on the I-85, he's not going to nearby attractions, he's not going to the airport. It's got to be on both of those. Now, following the initial conservative sweep, so he's trying to, because Nathan Wade is testifying that he went maybe to the Porsche Experience, or there's the airport there. But if you're on both of those, then you probably are not at those locations. Now, he says, following that initial conservative sweep limited to those 2 towers, I further constrained those findings even more to hits on the Alpha Sector or the Azimuth 2, which pointed directly at the Dogwood Drive community. So they, these things don't just beam out in total, circles. Sometimes they're directional and they cover certain ranges based on the antenna. So he says only this area. So I'm not getting, the range that covers the airport. Now, additionally, the report was limited to those locations when the phone was connected for an extended period of time. So you're not just flying by on the road. So saying, this is what I did. Now, this conservative analysis using the above reference modality, it revealed a minimum of 35 occasions when Mr. Wade's phone connected for an extended period to either one of those 2 towers in the closest proximity to the Dogwood address based on the associated data use, voice calls, or text messages. So 35 times. Now, that data reveals he's stationary. He's not in transit. And a deeper analysis of the data would reveal additional details like where his travel began and where it ended. But for the purposes of my analysis, I determined that his residence is located in East Cobb, and I was able to review the records which demonstrate his phone pinging off the associated towers near his residence for consistent periods. And so 35 times a minimum, right, based on very conservative estimates, at a minimum 35, and he was being very conservative. He said that many times. What did Nathan Wade say? Do you remember his testimony on what he said when he was asked about this? This is from the evidentiary hearing, and this is when Steve Sadow was asking Nathan Wade about this specifically. Let's refresh our recollection here.
Maybe it was my question was poorly worded. Let me try again. Your answer is yes, prior to November 1st of 2021, you would have gone to the Hapeville condo and been there with Miss Willis, correct?
Yes.
And you would have been there, as you indicated, for many reasons, right?
Yes.
Can you give me, just list a few of the reasons?
Miss Yurdy resided there, went to visit her, maybe went to talk about a document that I received.
You would go to the condo to talk about a document that you received?
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other reasons?
None come to mind.
None come to mind?
No, sir.
And would you say that was frequent? When I say frequent, do you think prior to November 1st of 2021, you were at the condo more than 10 times?
No, sir.
No more.
10 times.
Yes, sir.
So if phone records were to reflect that you were making phone calls from the same location as the condo before November 1st of 2021, and it was on multiple occasions, the phone records would be wrong?
If phone records reflected that, yes, sir.
They'd be wrong.
They'd be wrong.
Okay. Where did you live during that time period?
Same place I live now.
Which is is not in Hapeville, correct?
It is not in Hapeville.
It is north of Atlanta, the city of Atlanta, correct?
It is.
Okay. Any other reasons why you would be in the Hapeville area on multiple occasions prior to November 1st of 2021?
Totally setting him up, right? Watching this in hindsight.
Let's see. The Porsche Experience is there.
Okay, so that would have been one.
Porsche.
Yes, sir. The airport is there.
Airport in Hapeville.
Yes, sir. Delta Airlines is headquartered there. Let's see. Restaurants there.
Okay.
Fanny's booties over there.
If that's your recollection, that's fine. I'm not asking you to try to remember everything, but if that's
okay.
Look at his face too. Okay, so Steve Sadow, now that we know that he had those phone records in his back pocket this entire time, look at his little smirk there. Okay, Steve knows. He's like, you are busted, man. You're totally busted.
your affidavit filed in connection with the response with Miss Willis.
Okay,
No.
so now they go in. Did you talk to Fani about your affidavit, right? So he's totally busted. He got him right there. So 35 times at minimum, based on a conservative analysis, he says less than 10. So for the purposes of my analysis, I determined that he lives in East Cobb, and I was able to review the records which demonstrate his phone pinging off the towers near his residence for consistent periods. Now, because of the limitations in analyzing the sheer volume of data and in preparing this report, I was directed to conduct a deeper analysis of two specific dates alone, September 11th through 12th, 2021. Before I understand Mr. Wade was hired, yeah, he was appointed in November 1st, and November 1st was when he got the contract with Fani, signed that. The next day, he divorced Joycelyn. So the next date, right, November 1st, he got hired. The next date they look at is November 29th and 30th. Again, that's after he's hired, so one before, one after. And they said their relationship didn't start until 2022, early in the year, like March. So he says, okay, November 29th to 30th, prior to what I understand was the in-court testimony that the romantic relationship began in 22. So specifically, on September 11th, 2021, they were not remembering, okay? They forgot. They were focused on other things. And Mr. Wade, his phone left the Doralville area and arrived within the geofence location at the Dogwood address at 10:45 p.m. Nathan Wade is in the geofence in that area, 10:45 p.m. on September 11th, 2021. Now, the phone remained there until September 12th at 3:28 a.m. That's a night over. That's a spend the night, man. They said that never happened. 11:45 p.m. to 3:28 a.m. Now, I know they have a hard time with definitions. Like Fani doesn't know what gift means when she's filling out her official disclosure forms for the county. Nathan Wade doesn't know what marriage means. These are two lawyers, by the way, some of the smartest in Fulton. That's why they're there. And he doesn't know what a marriage means when he's filling out his legal documents in his interrogatories in his divorce. They can't figure it out. So what does an overnight mean? I don't know. They'll probably have a whole answer to that. And I don't know what it's going to be. But this is pretty clear. 10:45 p.m. You go to bed the PMs, you wake up in the AMs. That's an overnight. Busted. So their testimony, okay, in court is perjury, if that's true. If Nathan Wade went over to her house and spent the night, that's it. He lied to the court. You ever stayed the night there? No. Fani, you ever stay the night? No. Wrong. What's your cell phone doing over there? Maybe Fani had to borrow his cell phone or something, right? She went over to pick it up and borrowed his cell phone. I can't wait for their excuses. It's going to be great. So the phone remained there until 3:28, at which time the phone traveled directly to cell towers located in East Cobb County, consistent with his routine, pinging at his residence in that area. So he comes over, they indict each other from 10:45 to 3:28, and then he goes home. And that's scandalous, man. Is he trying to sneak back in before his wife wakes up? Or maybe she was not there at the time. She was in Texas, he says. So, scandalous hours. They're not doing legal work. He's not like, oh, I have a brilliant idea on how I can take out Trump. Or I have a brilliant idea. Oh, what's that, honey? I know how we can give Sidney Powell a diversion deal where she's not even going to be convicted. Like, they're not doing legal work, okay? Because they haven't gotten any convictions thus far, and they are not getting closer by the day. In fact, they're getting opposite from that. But the phone arrived back in East Cobb at 4:05 a.m., and the record demonstrates that he sent a text at 4:20 a.m. to Miss Willis. And you know what text that is? That's the "I'm home safe, baby. I made it home." Because she says, Fani, she's in love with him. She loves him a lot. She's like, they kiss each other as he's walking out to the car. It's 3:28 in the morning, and they're very scandalous. They just got done in their scandal. And so they're sneaking around. It's 3:20 in the morning. She says, text me when you get home, baby. He says, I will. I love you. He drives home. I made it. I'm home. And they're busted. And it's on record, right? 4:20 in the morning. She's like, oh, good. You're home safe. Sweet. So additionally, on November 29, Mr. Wade's phone was pinging in the East Cobb Towers near his residence. Guess what happened next? Following a call from Miss Willis, she gives him the old Fani call at 11:32. Hey, baby, what are you doing? What are you up to tonight? She goes, 11:30, I'm going to bed. Well, why don't you rethink that? Fani's got a hankering for an indictment. He says, well, Fani gets what Fani wants. I'm on my way, baby. Now, while the call continued, his phone left the East Cobb area. So phone call comes in from Fani. You know, she's very demanding. I need glasses. I need water. And I need copies of my motions now. So she calls Nathan. She's like, you know what I need? Get over here. He's like, all right, I'm on my way. Hold on. Now, the call continued. He's racing in the car, straightening himself up over there. And just after midnight, he's on the road. He arrives within the geofence area located at 12:43 a.m. It's a little bit of a drive over there, a little over an hour. So then he arrives on November 30th, 2021, 12:43 a.m. So she wants a booty Fani call. He hops into action. He springs over there. 12:43 shows up. They do the old hibbity dibbity. Phone is there until 4:55 in the morning. Busted again. Now, you know, like this one, they would say, I never spent the night. I can see Nathan Wade respond, no, I never spent the night. I got there in the morning and I left in the morning. Right? And very clever. Just like he doesn't know the difference between receipts and statements or marriage and divorce. So like that one, I was waiting for an excuse on that one. But again, what are you doing over there, Nathan, at 12:43 in the morning? I'll tell you this, I never had a co-counsel meeting with another attorney, you know, talking legal business at 12:43 in the morning. You know what I'm saying? Doing legal work at 12:43 in the morning with your colleagues. That's not what happens in the law, all right? Not what happens. Now, to be fair, unless you're like preparing for a trial, like if you have trial the next morning or something like that, maybe you're doing something like that once, you know, but not multiple times over this type of that's a Fani call, all right? They're busted. Now, the findings and the data are presented in a PowerPoint presentation, and according to Cellhawk, PowerPoint screen recordings are deemed the best way to present in a transparent way the totality of the data upon which an animated map feature was built. So they're just following him around. Hopefully there's a Nathan bobblehead following the map as it goes over to Fani, and Fani's bobbling around over here. And then they get together and there's an animated, you know, activity. See? That's what's happening. It's the data. It allows for simultaneous viewing of the timeline, the route of the travel along with the tower hits, tower information, the source of the hit, the call, the data, the text, the elapsed time, and other features. And furthermore, juxtaposed to communications or to the absence thereof, additional conclusions may be drawn from the data. Now, I declare under penalty of perjury the foregoing is true and correct, executed on the 22nd of February by Charles Middlestadt. So here is some more details on this exhibit, and we don't have the other exhibits, but here is what the judge is looking at. He says, I hereby certify the following reports were generated from certified AT&T records utilizing the Cellhawk system, and they were not manipulated or edited to reflect anything other than the available generated reports from the analytics tool. Saying here, this was titled Wade Willis Interactions for 2021. Wade's numbers 5822. Fani's is 0065. There's also this heat map in Exhibit B. It's a heat map that reflects the timing and the interactions with the prevalence of calls made in the evening hours. And there is a heat map that's floating around on the internet, but I don't know if it's actually Exhibit B. Also, PowerPoint presentation of Nathan Wade's geolocation highlights. The judge has that. Also, slides 11 through 44. They show the initial search for Wade's visits within the Dogwood geofence. For an 11 through 44, that's a lot of slides. Conservative data search described in the attached affidavits that show that pings, that Wade's cell phone was pinging off cell towers on at least 35 different occasions from April to November. Slides 5 through 7 talk about from September 11th to the 12th. This is a deeper analysis that was described in the affidavit. So it shows that Wade left the Doralville area at 10:15. He traveled to the geofence location at 10:45. He left the address at 3:28 a.m. That's the overnight. Bingo. That's a perjury. And traveling directly to towers near his Marietta residence in East Cobb, arriving at 4:05 in the morning. Texting Fani, I'm home safe, baby. Sleep well. Slides 8 through 10, also November 30th, another deeper analysis. Following a call from Fani, that booty call, get your Wade over here. At 11:32 p.m., he's on the call for 40 minutes. He leaves the towers in East Cobb at 12:05 a.m., shows up at Big Fani's residence at 12:38, traveling to and arriving, the outgoing call at 12:38, then arrives at 12:43. Then he leaves the Dogwood address at 4:55 in the morning. This guy gets like no sleep, traveling back to Atlanta. He's tired, probably going back to his office to sleep. So that's what got submitted, and man, that is damning. And so if you think about this, this is just another another piece of evidence. So when you zoom out, we've now got Robin Yurdy. Robin Yurdy was the person who said that the relationship started in 2019, said we've got evidence of them kissing and smooching and holding hands and all the stuff. That's one bit of evidence that Nathan and Fani lied. We also now have Terrence's evidence and his communications with Wade, and we have this distinction between bro talk and pro talk, and the judge is going to look at a lot of this and decide what is bro talk and what is pro talk. My guess is that there is a bunch of bro talk that is not protected by attorney-client privilege, and so that plus Yurdy plus this, that's 3 bits of evidence now that these people lied to the judge, lied in their affidavit, lied to the court. Their relationship started a lot longer, long time before they claimed it did, and they lied in their affidavit and on the stand. It's despicable. They should have come out, been honest about it, and claimed that it had no materiality to the underlying case. They goofed on that one. Now they're perjurers. Now they have to defend their lies. This is them doubling down. They should have just been honest about it, but they haven't been, and now they're in big trouble. Now Fani is not bending over so easily anymore, and she is now creating a reaction force that's going to be responding to this, and they're going fast. Here, Fulton County DA's office, according to CBS News, is preparing a response to dispute the new claims about her cell phone records. They say Fani was working hard on Friday to craft a rapid legal response that explains why, oh why, that cell phone data from Trump's lawyers doesn't undermine the timeline that she gave to courts when she was testifying. Trump's attorneys, they filed an analysis Friday of phone calls and cell records belonging to Wade as part of their motion to disqualify Fani Willis. They're freaked out over there. Fani's having a heart attack. The data purports to show that Wade was at the condo where she was living late at night and well into the early mornings on September 11th and September 12th. Willis acknowledged the romantic relationship in court papers, and both Wade and Willis testified under oath last week that their romantic relationship did not begin until early 2022, and they are busted. A source that's close to Willis said lawyers in her office are trying to challenge the interpretation of the data. I don't know what they're going to come up with. If the data analysis is proven to be accurate, oops, it might serve as powerful evidence that Wade and Willis misled the court about when their relationship began. The analysis, of course, was the gold standard. On Friday, lawyers for Fani's office were trying to find their own expert witness. Hopefully they have someone in their office because they're, the DA who would be able to counter what Trump's lawyers have asserted. They're like, oh crap, cell phone records. Do we know how to do that here? Do we have anybody who knows this stuff here? Their hope is to be able to file a response as early as Friday, and I haven't seen anything yet, or over the weekend. The interpretation of this data, they said, is not what you think it is. Okay, what is it? Looked pretty clear to us. Lawyers for the DA's office are not expected to claim that Wade did not visit the condo on multiple occasions. Indeed, both Willis and Wade have testified that he was there as many as 10 times, but they're going to maintain that the relationship had not developed into romance during that period. Okay, so we were only indicting each other, defense, but we didn't have any feelings for each other. We weren't actually in a personal relationship. We were just doing the old hibbity. Now, the source also says that it was not uncommon for Willis to hold work meetings at the condo. Yeah, and Wade wasn't working in the DA's office, though, until November of 2021, but the source says that he was a part of her kitchen cabinet. Oh, really? At 4 in the morning, you had kitchen cabinet meetings? In one meeting, according to the source, Wade was involved in discussions about the Atlanta spa shooting in a case in which 8 people were allegedly shot to death. It was late. It was an emergency. I had to go over there. At the end of the 2-day hearing, Fulton County judge questioned the defense lawyers on this, and Sadow said, we'd like to reopen a bunch of evidence. Now, should that happen, the two sides will argue over the reliability of the data, and this is scheduled for March 1, my friends, so mark your calendars. Should that happen, the two sides will argue over the reliability of the data and whose interpretation is correct, but the critical question, which could determine Willis's fate in the case, is whether the judge believes that she misled the court. Yeah, like the lying to the court is way worse than the underlying offense. Okay, they were indicting each other, well, that's fine. It was material. Clearly, they should have disqualified themselves. Totally unethical, totally lacking in integrity. They knew what they were doing. They got caught, right? All the things. But then lying about it to the judge in writing is like, oh my gosh, how could you be so stupid? Willis's most ardent defenders are continuing to rally to her side. We'll see how much longer. In an interview with CBS, Norman Eisen, a lawyer and former Obama administration ethics czar, he questioned the reliability of the cell phone data and the defense tactics, which is just great. Prosecutors are now going to come out and say, cell phone records are terrible. They don't prove anything. And defense attorneys are like, perfect. So we're going to take that quote and use it in our drug case. Thanks. He says the kind of data is unreliable, as shown by a similar failed effort in 2020 Mules case. You mean 2000 Mules? Eisen said, referring to a case that involved false claims by election deniers and 2020 to use drug Dropbox. Moreover, Eisen said that the issues would have been raised earlier when it could have been tested, they said. But still, Eisen acknowledged, he says, yeah, as a general matter, yeah, judges always care about honesty, yeah, about those appearing before them, before noting that in this case, the defense is attempting to cross a bridge too far and one that rests on shaky foundations. I don't think so. Those foundations look pretty good 35 times at a minimum. And so they are hitting the panic button over there. I can't even imagine what it's like. That office, there must be just freaking out. And how hysterical is that? Now, as we continue to watch this catastrophe, this slow motion train wreck, Jim Jordan showed up over at CPAC. He's in Congress. And we know that Congress has sent multiple letters and requests to Fani for information. Questions about why she was billing the White House counsel, why Nathan Wade was communicating with them and sending bills for that work, and more, like the J6 committee and so on. And he says that they have a whistleblower who is now out and going to be revealing more information in time. This is Jim Jordan.
Jimmy Kimmel understood what the title of this conversation is. What you talking about, Willis? Fani Willis. Did she get back to you today?
Yeah, we subpoenaed her. Not yet. I just talked to
Wait,
our
is
staff.
she supposed to get back to you today?
Yeah, she's supposed to get documents.
Well,
to
did
us.
you hear from her boyfriend?
We haven't. So I was talking about this in the office, and I said Fani Wade, and it was like a Freudian slip, you know, like I had Fani Willis and Nathan Wade. So no, we haven't heard back from her yet. We'll see what we get from her. But there's a whistleblower in her office who we have talked to, the committee staff. Yeah, and the whistleblower, I think she's like 4'11", but Fani Willis had 7 police escort her out when she fired this lady, because this lady raised the concern that Miss Willis was not spending federal funds and not following the rules of the grant and the grant dollars in the appropriate manner. So she raised this concern, and then Fani Willis fired her. She's now talking with our office, and we'll see where that goes. And that's why we subpoenaed for records and documents related to this. We'll see what we get. There's still a few hours left in today. She also was interesting. She, instead of accepting service on the subpoena, she made us send the U.S. Marshals. Even though our office had talked with her office, we've had correspondence back and forth, she made the U.S. Marshals take the subpoena there. So go figure. This is Fani Willis, and we all saw her, I think, her attitude on display when she took the stand.
I thought it was a skit, but I think it actually was real life.
It was real.
Well, you know, we sent out a tweet that said we didn't invite Fani Willis to CPAC, but there is a Fani sandwich with a chaser of Grey Goose vodka if you have enough cash, ready cash in your pocket.
Yeah, the comedy routine from Mr. Slap coming out today. That's awesome.
It's been a long year, Jim.
Well, we appreciate what you do. We appreciate what CPAC has meant for conservative principles for a long, long time.
Thank you. It means a lot.
All right, so they've got some more insight into this whistleblower. They've talked to her, and so you can just imagine that the office is spiraling out of control over there. They are going to respond to this. Fani's going to come out and say, we have very important work to do at 4:43 in the morning, and if I need to have Nathan Wade over here to be a part of my kitchen cabinet or put me on the kitchen cabinet or whatever, I'll be the person to do that. Don't be racist and stop attacking a woman in my position is what we're going to hear. And they're going to hopefully dig up some other expert witness. Maybe they have one in their office. You know, it is the prosecutor's office after all. Maybe they'll figure this out and have a good explanation, but I don't think so. I think this just adds more fuel to the evidence that we already know. These people lied to Judge McAfee, and he's going to have to do something about it. So we're going to be here continuing to cover this, my friends, the Fani Wade saga, all of the other Trump trials. Of course, we're covering what's happening in Florida and J6, the ballot removal stuff, New York, all of them. We'd love to have you join us. We'd also love to invite you to check out some of the other things we're doing here. WatchYourLodge.com, linked down in the description below. Great place where we do some events and workshops. We have Political Zen Wellness event next week. It's free. We'd love to have you join us, where we're going to clear out some mental turbidity with help from our friend Jason Campbell, work on some breathing and do some other fun stuff, because we need our minds to be cleared so that we can enjoy this train wreck as it unfolds and be here for the rest of our political future together. And so check it out, my friends, WatchYourLodge.com. Also check out our members only community, watchingthewatchers.locals.com, where we carry on these conversations about this case and more. We'd love to see you there and back here on the next one.